So do you have anything you want to share from last week's session? Anyone? It's a very quiet group.
Well, I had just finished a CEB course that ran for seems like months, and
Yeah.
it was really good to listen to your recording of the first session because it seemed to begin to at least
Oh,
the language, the vocabulary, and some of the concepts were familiar to me.
so what is that course? See,
Cultivating emotional balance
oh, with Venable. Oh, she's no longer
with
Venable.
Michael. No, yeah, I did it with Michael Lobsang Tempa, who's I think it through the Tibet House.
Oh, great.
And I
Oh,
also practice
fantastic.
with I practice with the group at All Souls Unitarian Church here in New York.
Fantastic. That's wonderful. Well,
No, I'm
welcome.
not good at it. I'm just
No,
trying.
we're all, I tell you also too, because this environment that we live in isn't particularly conducive to being attentive to
Mhm.
ourselves. We're so easily distracted. And now with all these kind of like 30-second, 1 minute videos that we can look at and just scroll through, I mean, it's kind of captivating. It's almost like, well, I don't have enough attention span to watch a 1 hour um, part of a series, but I can spend 2 hours flicking through TikTok. And
Mm.
it's bizarre to me that this is something that's actually a thing now. People even joke about it, but it's actually I'm just kind of like, there's so much distraction. And then we give ourselves a hard time. Oh, I've got ADD or something. And it's not entirely all of our fault. It's just the environment we're in is not particularly conducive. And it was really amazing when I went up to Laudo. I think it may have been I was going up every year from 2013 until the pandemic. It was just something I really loved to do because up there I felt that my mind was free. Well, there just wasn't many distractions up there. You couldn't get internet up there, which Laudo, oh, okay. The teacher who kind of founded our organization, Lama Zopa Rinpoche and Lama Yeshe. So he was born up in the Tamay region, which is in the Himalayas, just maybe about a 1 or 2 days walk south of Mount Everest. So it's very close to the border of Tibet and Nepal. And he was born in this village called Tamay. And at about the age of 2, he started saying, my home is over there, which was Laudo, which is a little bit higher up and like about a 2 hour trek across the mountain in a very narrow path. And then Laudo was named after the Laudo Lama, who was a layman who was also a trader. But he got to a certain point in his life where he just wanted to meditate. And I think and he used to drink a lot. So at one point he had a stroke and he was paralyzed. So he couldn't really do anything except sit in his cave. So he sat there for quite a few years. I don't know, was it maybe 16 years or something? And his wife and his daughter was serving him and looking after him and taking care of him. And he just sat there and meditated. And he vowed in his next life to set up a school for the local children because people were asking him, can you please set up a school for the kids up? Education is a valued commodity up there, something we totally take for granted. But so then Lama Zopa Rinpoche started saying, that's my home over there. And eventually he was recognized as the reincarnation of this Laudo Lama. And it wasn't until, and it was so interesting because the family of the Laudo Lama, they're Nyingma. Our tradition is Gelugpa, and the Nyingmas do not have a tradition of recognizing a reincarnation and handing all of the family wealth over to the reincarnation. They keep it within the family. And I kind of quite sensibly so is that, you pass all the family's wealth down to the sons and the nephews and the daughters or whatever. But so they didn't want to recognize Lama Zopa Rinpoche as the reincarnation of the Laudo Lama, just simply because I suspect it was about resources. I don't know. Then eventually at one point they did. And because Lama Zopa Rinpoche being very sick up until this point, he'd got tuberculosis. He was very, very thin You may have seen photos of him when he was younger. And I think he went up for the first time with Lama Yeshe to be given back, almost like officially be given back all the holy objects and the property of Laudo. And I think he went up that first time with some Westerners. And there's one book called, what is it, Big Love? And I think there's a story in there about that, that first trip back. But after that, I think Rinpoche's health just came back. So anyway, there's a little meditation cave in there called the Cave of the Blessings. One of the names is the Cave of Radishes, and apparently that's where they used to store the radishes. But there's this one Lama called Guru Rinpoche, who's very much, he's also, I don't know, was he a real person? Is he a deity? But he was actually a real person. And he had cities. So, they say he could kind of walk very quickly over the ground, or he could fly in the sky, or whatever. He was different times and quite an extraordinary being. So apparently he meditated in that cave as well. So what's extraordinary about this cave is you walk in there and immediately shoom, it's almost like you're put in a cocoon, and you don't have to work terribly hard to focus and concentrate and meditate in there. So that's what I would call a conducive environment. And so it's almost like we have to work extra hard here for some reason. If you're not worried about money or bills or, my job or relationship or whatever, family, you're worried about all the delusions that are in the mind. And we have just so many distractions. Up there, life is quite simple, very uncomfortable. I must say, outside toilets, no shower. And no internet, like I'd have to walk miles up the mountain to get like one bar on my phone. And then, of course, if the weather's doing a certain thing and they don't have enough gas, then the tower goes down somewhere and they didn't have a signal, so you couldn't get signal anyway. So it was kind of very, very peaceful. The days would flow by. I would just do my little retreat and go and do some meditation. Then I'd look after, one of my jobs was to look after the baby cows up there. Then I'd look after the baby cows for a bit. Then I'd go back and do another session, go have some dinner, have some chat. And that was life up there. And it was your mind could be very expansive and things are just very simple. It's like, we lost a calf disappeared. So Anila and I went off to look for it. And then her cow person found it had been eaten by a snow leopard. So then they told me where it was. So then Anila said, can you go do a medicine Buddha puja? So I went down with this special powder that had been blessed by Rinpoche and sprinkled it. I was actually quite scared because I thought, what if the snow leopard's still around and I'm there with its kill, Anyway, that was like my favorite calf. I was so upset. Anyway, so I did this medicine Buddha puja for this calf, and that's just what life is like up there, It's just very interesting. And also, now you've brought me to it. There are a couple of pilgrimages going up there this year. So I'll be going up in October with Charak Lama and, Venerable Rabina's organized this group. And then I think a couple of other nuns are going up in April. So if you want to know more about that, you can just ask me. But it will be a very fun time. It's my kind of like one of my favorite places. So anyway, where are we? Oh, 12 minutes in. So I'm glad you asked that question. If you want to know anything more about Laudo, I can talk about it for hours. But we're here to talk about meditation. So I wanted to again check in with people. Anything anybody else wants to share from last week? No? Did anyone get a chance to practice? Sheila did. Oh, you guys did. Well done. Okay. Well done. Okay. All right. So there's this beautiful little there's this one company. Where have they gone? I'm going to share this. page with you. There's this company that kind of advertises their tankas online, and they're advertising this one, but it's very pertinent to us. So this is the 9 progressive stages of mental development, of enlightenment or concentration, with the 6 powers of study, contemplation, memory, comprehension, diligence, and perfection. This is all a little bit vernacular. But what I really like about this tanka, and I hope is it big enough for everyone to be able to see? It's a little small. I can go to here. This is actually a bit big, a bit better. So right now, this is kind of where we are. We're doing a little bit of study. We're coming along and doing a little bit of meditation, and we're attending a few classes online. But here's distractions, this monkey, miles ahead of us. And this is our mind, completely tied and being led by all of our distractions. And this big flame of fire here is how much effort it takes us to get a little bit of concentration going. And then as we kind of move on, we're starting to see the monk is getting a little bit closer to the elephant. You can see a little bit of white appearing in the top of the elephant's head. Monkey's still leading it. Not so much effort, though, to meditate. So we're kind of calming the mind down a little bit. And here, the monk finally got the rope off the monkey. And we've got a little hair up here. And the hair indicates kind of the torpor of the mind. There's one distraction, which we'll talk about today, called, it's not sloth, but it's torpor. It's really kind of sleepiness. So this is what this hair, all of a sudden, you're kind of getting a little bit more into your meditation, but also you can be going into this kind of sleepiness. So the elephant's head's got a little bit whiter. So the elephant, the hare, and the monkey are all starting to look towards the monk, which means they're getting a little bit under control. Monk's still behind, though, still a bit of effort to try and get the mind under control. So you see a little bit of the black has gone from the monkey. And then you see here there's a little bit more white on the elephant, a little bit more color on the monkey, and a little bit less effort to concentrate. And you go further up here, the hare has got more white, the elephant's got more white, and the monkey is now behind the elephant, holding the elephant's tail, but still there. And now the monk is kind of taking charge and leading the show, but still some distractions, some sleepiness, some distractions down here. And then here, a little bit less effort. The monkey's a little bit more under control, and the hare's gone. So all that sleepiness is gone, the distraction of sleepiness. And here the monkey's saying goodbye to the monk. He's kind of got the mind and all the distractions a little bit under control. There's still a little bit of distraction here. You can see some black on the elephant's tail. But, hair is gone, saying farewell to the monkey. And here you've got the mind is following the monk. And then the monk is sitting. I won't go to these guys. These are kind of represent the cities that kind of can happen after you've reached this stage here. The mind is represented by the elephant sleeping at the side and quite obedient to the monk, who's now happily meditating in his cave. And then apparently when you get to this level, you experience all kinds of, bliss and happiness. And but it takes a while to get there. And as you can see with these flames, considerable amount of effort. And you also need the right conditions. So, for a number of you, if you're in the city, it's not going to be easy. What is this type of visual story called? It's actually a tanka, and so it's a typical way in which in Tibetan Buddhism things are taught. So it's just also too, it's a visual reminder, so you don't have to write it. Not everybody in Tibet had learned how to read and write. So this is how they would teach people. So you go to some of the main gompas. I think if you go to our gompa at Kopan Monastery in Nepal, in Kathmandu, you'll see this painted on the wall. And so everybody knows what that is. And then the tradition is mainly oral. So this is just a way of telling the story. And it's done with many cultures, ancient Aboriginals, the American Indians, the Egyptians. Actually, I don't know what the word is for a visual story like this. There probably is a special term, but I don't know it off the top of my head. Yes,
I
Chris.
think contemporarily we call it a pictogram, but it it's very interesting to me. I'm a linguist, so I like
Oh, I see. There you go.
non-linguistic language, and it was very interesting.
I think obviously it has to be explained, but it kind of makes sense. And then there's also kind of other imagery here with these all are symbols, sort of the conch, the symbols, the fruit. They represent different things and there's a mirror up there. They represent different things in Tibetan Buddhism, and here the bow, the silk bow, but it's not for our course. It's not really necessary. But if you do look up this, it's a bit pictorial picture of samatha practice.
Yeah.
You can look this up. Stages of samatha meditation. So if you look that up, you'll find many different depictions of this online. But I really like this one. That's why I'm sharing it with you. Anyway, it's not part of the course, but it's something that I find is really helpful for people to get an idea of, not to give yourself a hard time if you can't figure out why you're not able to meditate for more than 3 minutes without wanting to check your phone. So, yeah, don't worry, it's not your problem. And hello, Marion. Nice to see you. You weren't there before. Marion, were you here last week? Do you want to unmute yourself?
Yeah, no, I wasn't here last week. Unfortunately, I was.
Oh, welcome. But did you get to see the video from last week?
Oh, I didn't. Unfortunately, where can I get that?
Sheila will let you know.
Okay.
It's on the website. I'll put the link in the website for the page.
Okay, thank
Then
you.
just scroll down until you see the video box, and then you can click on
And where will I get that now?
from the Shantideva website. I'll put the link in the chat.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Kimberly, I just wanted to check in with you. How are you doing? Silence.
No, I'm not
Are
doing
you
great.
okay? Yeah, I
No,
wondered. I haven't seen you in class at nighttime, and I was just worried about how your health's doing. So,
yeah,
okay.
not great.
I'm
So,
sorry to hear that. Okay, but I'm glad you made it today.
yes, thank you.
Is anyone here in Los Angeles County, or are you all in New York? All right. So, yeah, a lot of people in this area have relatives and friends, etc., down there. So I just wanted to acknowledge how serious that is. And maybe we can sort of dedicate the benefit that we create today to some of these people. All right, so let's get moving to session 2. So those of you who weren't here last week, and also Chris, I know you have to leave early. Chris, there will be this class will be back up on the website. Marion, you will get some of the explanation that we had last week, but you won't get the experience of the first meditation, but we are going to do the second meditation.
Okay. Thank you.
Excuse me. So I'm just going to review now mindfulness. So what we're doing today is we're looking at mindfulness and introspection. So first of all, just to go over what mindfulness is, it's just what allows our mind and our attention to stay engaged with a familiar object without losing touch with it or being distracted elsewhere. And as I've said, it's easier said than done. Like doing it in the middle of the traffic in New York versus in the cave in Laudo is a whole different experience. So the strength of the connection between our mindfulness and its object depends then on familiarity with that object. So, and any associations we have with that object or we've built up in relation to it. So the more familiar we are with an object, the stronger the associations and the better our mindfulness is able to keep that object in the foreground of our awareness for a longer duration, and then our concentration can deepen. So this is why we have an object of concentration and we become familiar with it. So say, for example, it's the breath, or when I first learned Vipassana meditation in the 80s, our teachers would, my teachers were Burmese, and they would teach us to focus on a spot at the base of the nose. And that's where we would place the focus of our breath. So you can feel it as you breathe in and out, this little spot here in the base of the nose. And that is where the sensation was. And that's where you were focusing. And we were meditating for 9 hours a day. We had 9 hours of sessions. And for the first 4 days, we were doing what they call anapana, or concentration meditation. So, of course, then I become very familiar with this spot at the base of the nose. But normal everyday living, you are very familiar with your local bus stop or the road in which you grew up. So the street that you grew up on, you could probably remember almost every single house on that street. So you have a lot of familiarity with that street, a lot of emotional connections with your home, your childhood home, your street, the people you grew up with. And even also, when you're in love with someone, you have extraordinary mindfulness around that person. You can bring them to your mind quite clearly. You know how they laugh, you hear how they sound, because you've really focused in on that. So you know what that is, and you have great familiarity with it. So is that clear? So it's like being mindful of something, not forgetting the object. So we use it in everyday language. You're mindful when you're cutting an apple with a very sharp knife because you don't want to cut yourself. So, it's the same in meditation. And so now the implication of our practice of mindfulness is to take care in building up that familiarity and strong associations. And we kind of constantly returning our attention to our chosen object of mindfulness so that our attention naturally gravitates towards it. So it's almost like we're training, we're habituating ourselves to something that's virtuous. And so that we have a habit to go there rather than a habit to check our phone every 5 minutes or more than that. So it's almost like an effortless effort. So it's a mindful connection. It's not based on kind of how hard we push or force our mind. So it's just kind of like this familiarity that's built up over time. So, and mindfulness is a natural ability of the mind. It's not something special that you kind of, but it's something that we all have. That's what I'm saying. The person you're in love with, you have a huge amount of mindfulness around that person, particularly the longer you're in the relationship. Your children, for example. So we have another natural ability of the mind, and this is introspection. So introspection works in meditation almost like a spy that's checking and monitoring how our mind and our body are doing in our meditation. So it's this kind of awareness, this introspection that kind of alerts us to our mind being distracted away from the object of mindfulness. So your mind starts to travel, and then all of a sudden you're like, oop, I've gone somewhere else. And you can also if your mind's been overwhelmed a little bit by dullness or drowsiness. So both with distractions and dullness and drowsiness, it might take a minute or two to realize what's happened. But if you start out with this idea of, okay, I'm going to use my introspection to keep an eye on what I'm doing, then you've kind of got that already in the back of your head. And it enables us to kind of return our attention back to the object of mindfulness, kind of just strengthening our focus. So the stronger our mindfulness, the easier it is to notice deviations because of the great contrast of being focused and being distracted somewhere else. So the strength of our introspection increases in step with that of our mindfulness. And these two natural qualities of the mind can support each other. So, if this idea of a spy doesn't work for you, you can think of for those of you who are parents, or, if have had anything to do with young children or ever looked after a young child. So you're taking a young, like a 1 or a 2 or a 3-year-old out for a walk, and they're holding your hand. And you're walking on the road, on a footpath next to a busy road. You're going to keep a hold of that kid and make sure that they don't run off into the road or fall off the side of the cliff. You're going to be very aware of what that child is doing because you want to make sure it's safe. So it's a little bit like that. Your mind it's almost like your introspection. You can also use the analogy of the mother taking care of the child, and your mindfulness is the child, and the mother is your introspection. So you can also see it like that. So now, does anyone have any questions about that? Does it kind of make sense? Yes, Linda.
Definition sounded very close to the definition of. Can you hear? Your definition of mindfulness sounded very close to the definition of meditation.
Of concentration?
Of meditation.
Yeah.
So is there an actual difference, or is mindfulness something like when you meditate, like you're in one spot, like mindfulness is something that you carry away in, like sort of when you're more awake and more walking around? And
Mindfulness is just being very focused on your object of concentration without forgetting it. So it's almost like literally being mindful of what's going on in your mind. So yes, it is meditation. Like in this, am I getting what you're asking? Am I
Yes.
answering?
Yes.
That makes okay.
I think Venus said.
We can't hear you. Have to stay close to the mic. Still can't hear you.
I think we hear her better when she moves away from it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Linda, stay there. Yeah. Now I can hear
Okay.
you.
One time.
Stay back.
Okay. Rabina was talking about mindfulness, and she said, like a sharpshooter could be mindful. Where's the, morality in that kind of?
Right. You don't have to, in order to have mindfulness, you don't necessarily need to be a Buddhist. It's not necessarily meditation. You have to have mindfulness if you're going to be a sharpshooter. You need to have concentration as a sharpshooter. But your motivation.
Like a function of the mind, something the mind does.
It's a natural ability of the mind. But we're just using it we're training it towards virtue.
And
so mindfulness and introspection are both natural abilities of the mind. So you can use them however you want. We just happen to be using them as a tool to meditate. So this is what the ancients discovered is a good way to learn. So, and unfortunately, unfortunately, mindfulness meditation is now used very differently throughout the world. Yeah. So it's not, sometimes it's sold as like you can come along, do this course and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And sometimes those courses are really, really helpful, but I don't know if they always contain that same level of depth as you're going to get if you do some kind of little bit more in-depth study. Yes, Chris.
Is there a difference, or in my mind, there is a difference, or maybe just in the words, between concentration and mindfulness? Concentration to me seems more cognitive, and mindfulness seems, cognitively that you could be thinking about, concentration within periods of time and stuff. And I feel like mindfulness is a little less cognitively driven. Is that false?
You're the linguist, right?
Yeah, I know. That's the
Yeah.
problem. Well, I just think of, cognitive abilities. You're thinking, you might be concentrating on a problem, but at least for the last year in mindfulness, what I've been trying to do is get beyond that cognitive activity.
Yeah. And it's almost like that cognitive activity can also be a huge distraction. So it's almost like that, the monkey,
Yes.
you have to, you're being mindful of what the mind is doing. And you're, focusing and concentrating either on the breath or the spot on the nose or a ball of light on the crown of the head, that you have your object of concentration. And then you are not forgetting that object of concentration. So you've got the object of concentration, which could be your cognitive, if in the linguistic world, it could be the concentration, right? Your object of concentration, say, is a ball of light or the breath. The mindfulness is not forgetting that object and being familiar with that object and continually bringing your attention back to it again and again and again. So that's more about what mindfulness. It's almost like when you are, like I said, you're cutting something with a knife. You don't look around like this and chat. You keep your eye on that knife because you don't want to cut yourself. So you're mindful of the knife. You're mindful of how sharp it is. You know that if you're working with a sharp knife, you're going to have to be a lot more careful than if you're working with a blunt knife. Does that make sense? I can see you're thinking. Your eyes are blinking.
No, I don't want to take up too much time.
No, we have 2 hours here. And this is and this is part of the
Well, it's
course
just
is
that I
to
think
chat.
the knife, as soon as you're talking about concentrating on that, you're bringing in cause and effect, risk, a whole bunch of other
Right.
pieces to the concentration. Whereas what I've been trying to do, thinking I was moving towards mindfulness, was to watch my mind more than all of those causative, cause and effect, time-oriented things. So
But you
concentration to me seems far more on that, and mindfulness seems like you had a beautiful sentence. You said it's watching sort of what your mind is doing, rather than what things are doing possibly in the real world. I don't know. I think I'll just stop for now.
I think this kind of inquiry is absolutely fantastic, and it just points to the fact that we need to do some practice. And let's do the next meditation, which is we did this last time. It's called mindfulness of or body scan meditation. So we want to engage our attention with the very subtle bodily sensations at the different parts, and repeatedly as the practice of mindfulness, and that of noticing distraction or dullness during the meditation as the practice of introspection. And so when you experience some distraction, you notice the mind has started to travel, or you're starting to feel dull and sleepy, you simply acknowledge them as a normal part of the process of cultivating mindfulness. And, without giving yourself a hard time, return your attention to the bodily sensations. So just before we start, just tap the top of your head, just very lightly. And then take your hand away, close your eyes, and you'll feel the imprint of that tap on the crown of your head. You might feel some sensation there. So that sensation is going to be the object of our concentration. And for you, Chris, I am going to just go back. I want to go back to just go back to the definition of mindfulness within this tradition, okay? To be fully mindful is to allow whatever it is that we're noticing to come fully to the mind, or fully into our conscious awareness. So in the Buddhist tradition, mindfulness is presented with 4 characteristics. 1, without forgetfulness. So we're able to engage our attention with an object without forgetting it or losing sight of it. And 2, depends on familiarity. So the strength of our mindfulness, our not forgetting, is dependent on how familiar we are with that object. The greater the familiarity, the stronger the association, better our attention. And then preventing distraction. So the mindfulness serves to keep our attention from wandering away from its object. And there's this element of certainty. So when we're mindful of an object, we fully attend to it and get to know it with a sense of certainty. We're not attending to it half-heartedly or absent-mindedly. We give our full attention to that object, as you would with someone you've just fallen in love with. I think that's kind of the best example. It's one that Venerable Rabini uses all the time. Or someone you don't like. If you're really angry with someone, fully focused on that person. Anyway, let's go back to our meditation. So Chris, that was like a proper definition from with those 4 elements. So it's a little bit more complicated, and no wonder you're having trouble with it, because it's a little bit, it's a thing, a big thing. Okay. So here in this body scan meditation, we're returning our attention to be in touch with our own body. And we're sensing the simple bodily sensations at different parts of the body. By contacting our body with, attention, mindful attention, we are facilitating the body and subsequently the mind to shift and release unnecessary tensions and mental agitation. And given time, we can help the body and the mind settle into a more calm and meditative state. So let's just get ourselves settled into a nice, comfortable meditation posture. So we went through this last week. It's the 7-point meditation posture. And I add a couple of things there to do with alignment. So if you are sitting with your feet down on the floor, have them about a hip's width apart and really feel the sensations of the soles of the feet of the floor, the heels, the side of the foot, the big toe mound, the little toe mound, and all of your toe pads. Maybe you can feel the weight of the sensation of the legs in the foot, on the floor. If you're sitting in the cross-legged position, maybe you can have a couple of cushions underneath either knee. And I would recommend you put something underneath your coccyx, your sits bones, to create a correct angle of the pelvic region. So if you're not very flexible and you're sitting just on your sits bones on the ground or on your chair, there's maybe a tendency just to kind of lean back like this. So we want the body to be aligned. And the reason for this is not necessarily so that you have correct alignment. We're trying to create the best possible situation for us to be able to concentrate. So we have blood moving through the body. We have lymph moving through the body. We have energy, chi, breath, prana, moving through the body. We also have a lot of nerve endings and blood, etc., moving into the brain from the spine. And then these tiny little holes in the spinal that the spinal cord goes through at the top of the head, at the top of the spine. So, if we're not sitting correctly, if we're not sitting in an aligned fashion, we're just making it a lot harder for the brain to receive any kind of proper signals, nutrients, etc., etc. One of the other things to do is to make sure your shoulders are aligned with your hips. And if you can, your rib cage aligned with your hips. So you're not kind of arching your back or kind of leaning forward like this, rounding your back. You have your hands, for the purposes of this meditation, you can have your hands resting in your lap, or one hand nestled, the right hand nestled in the left with the thumbs touching. That's the traditional meditation posture in our tradition. If you've done yoga, this might be something that you do. But, depends on the comfort of your shoulders, your wrists, etc. Just make sure you're comfortable. And then, as best you can, your ears aligned with your shoulders. It's almost like you imagine your neck lengthening and then the ears gliding back. Take a nice deep breath. And imagine your spine is a beautiful string of pearls of light. It stretches from the base, moves all the way up through the crown of the head and beyond. And you're just lengthening your spine, putting some space in between the vertebrae. A little bit of length in the back of the neck. So if your head is tipping too far forward, you're going to get dullness and sleepiness. Also, if your head is out of alignment with the spine, you're creating a lot more stress on the shoulders and the upper back. Because the more the head is out of alignment with the spine, the heavier it is. If I can find that photograph before we finish today, I will show you how every inch out of alignment with the spine increases the weight of the head. So, as we get older, our head is kind of leaning, getting, we're losing strength as we get older. So the head starts to kind of drop, and comes forward, but we want to still be able to see ahead. So then what happens is this, and we have this kind of rounded upper back and kind of a crick in the back of the head, below the spine, below the skull. So then, what I understand is that this is actually not very good for the brain. So if we want to maintain our cognitive health, we stay aligned as best you can. Okay. So now where we are. Now, where are we? At the crown of the head. So just relax your scalp and your forehead and your eyebrows, your eyes, the back of the eye, your eyelashes, the nose, the cheeks, the mouth, the jaw, the back of the tongue. Allow your shoulders and shoulder blades to drop down. Relax the throat, the chest, the belly, and all of your limbs. And notice the sensations of the breath as you inhale and exhale. So you may notice the sensations of the breath around the nostrils. So as you inhale, you'll notice the air is slightly cooler than when you exhale. You may notice the sensation of the air flowing across the little hairs just inside the nostrils. You may also notice the rising and the falling of the belly, the pressure against whatever is around your waist, and also the rising and the falling of the chest. But there's a lot more going on in that thoracic region than we realize. So as you inhale, the diaphragm drops down. As you exhale, the diaphragm rises. Then we have these lungs, like balloons. And there's an expansion that is 360 degrees. As you inhale, the back ribs expand, the side ribs expand, the front ribs expand, the chest expands. And as you exhale, it all contracts. So, just by breathing, we're kind of massaging our internal organs. We're moving lymph and blood. Before we start this meditation, just notice again the sensations of the air flowing in and out of the nostrils. You may feel it at the side of the nostrils, the base of the nose, the tip of the nostrils. Just notice the sensations of breath. Some of you may be more comfortable with feeling the breath in the thoracic region or the belly. Not everybody necessarily wants to focus on the nostrils. And imagine you're inhaling for a count of 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. exhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, just relax that technique. So now we're going to return our attention to the body to allow ourselves to be in touch with the simple sensations there in order to settle our body into meditation. So starting at the crown, remember we tapped our head. Notice the sensations on the crown of the head. Maybe a little bit of tingling, maybe there's slight pressure, warmth or coolness, or maybe nothing at all. So we'll just take maybe 4 or 5 breaths here. Noticing, if you can, the sensations on the crown of the head. And so here with the introspection, like the mother with the child, or the spy, just notice when the mind starts to travel. And very gently bring it back. Move down to your face. Move your attention down to your face and notice the sensations there. Maybe just relax your face. Were you holding any tension there? The forehead, around the eyes, the eyebrows, the eyelashes. Just relax your nose. Relax your mouth. Relax the back of the tongue and the jaw. Can you very gently relax these muscles and let a different feeling, one of softness and ease and comfort, into your face? So Sheila, if you could go ahead and mute everybody, please. And invite your attention to come back to your body, to the neck and the throat. And just notice the sensations there. And maybe you can release any tension you might be holding in your throat, in the neck. And how are your shoulders feeling today? If you notice any tension or uncomfortable feelings there in your shoulders or elsewhere, can you simply acknowledge them for the time being? If you feel slight discomfort, maybe ask yourself, do I necessarily need to change this immediately? Can I just let it be for the moment? And allow our attention to flow down both arms at the same time. Almost like a flow of water. And notice the simple sensations in our upper arms, biceps, triceps, both elbows, down to your forearms, your wrists, and now your hands. Notice the sensations at the palms, the back of the hand, and in your fingers. And having activated all these sensations into your awareness, can you rest both arms and hands on their physical support and release their weight into gravity? Now bring your attention back to your chest, your heart chakra. And what do we find there? Can we feel the breath along with other sensations? And notice your natural out breath. And take this opportunity to release anything unhelpful, unwanted, somehow just to flow away with the out breath. And if you wish, you can even make a sound. Ah. No one else can hear you because you're all muted. But if you want to make a sound with that exhale, you can. Coming back to your body, allow your attention to go deeper and lower until you arrive at your abdomen. And rest your attention within your body at the level of your navel and sense the sensations there. So this is a lot of activity in this area. This is where, our organs of elimination, reproduction, digestion. And feel the weight of your pelvis on its physical support. See if you can release that weight, your sits bones, your coccyx, so that your pelvis can rest comfortably there into your cushion. So feel the sensations in your sits bones, the base of the spine, your glutes. So glutamus maximus. And allow your attention to flow down both legs at the same time and notice the simple sensations at both of your hip joints, your quads, your thighs. Feel the sensations at your knees. The front of the lower leg, your calves, your Achilles tendon. Just notice the sensations there. And then finally arrive at your feet. Notice the sensations at the soles of the feet, the heel, side of the foot, the arch, the big toe mound, the little toe mound, and all of your little toe pads. Feel the top of your feet. Maybe you can feel your sock, your slipper. Maybe there are sensations in your toes. And having activated all these sensations into your awareness, can you rest both legs on the ground and release their weight into gravity? So just rest your body in this posture. Allow it to settle and be comfortable there. We'll meditate here for 5 minutes. And rest your attention here with your body and your breath. And each time you notice you're exhaling, use it as an opportunity to deepen the sense of release, releasing anything unhelpful, unwanted, you can release yourselves deeper into the here and now, into the present, into the meditation. So once you've become aware that your mind has traveled, your introspection has alerted you to a departure, you just very gently bring the mind back without any judgment. Okay, everybody, just relax. And just come back in your own time. I'd like to give everybody a quick bio break if you need one, and have a think about what happened in your meditation and what you'd like to share. And did you notice this combined action of mindfulness and introspection to keep us in touch with what was going on in the body, regardless of different interruptions? Okay. So 518 will return. What is that? 818. Is that correct? Okay. For you guys. Okay. Thank you, Sheila. So how was that? Like, did you notice any introspection? Did you notice when your mind had traveled, and were you able to bring it back? And what was your experience with that? You can share. You share. Oh, Sheil, come on. Yes, Sheil, and then Linda, and then I want to check in with Marion because it's her first session. Sheil, what did you want to say? And welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I like
Can
what
you put your camera on, please?
um
Unless you're in the shower.
I'm not in a position right now to do that.
Okay, no worries.
Sorry. Next time will be different.
Okay.
What I noticed is that I wanted to ask you, like, you mentioned to the tip of the nose, right?
Mhm.
I've always been taught like my belly, but I
Mhm.
like the tip of my nose because I find after a while when I'm trying to keep my concentration on my belly, I I don't know, it feels frustrating. A lot of things come up, but I'm more calm when I'm thinking of the tip of my nose. And then it goes to like my it does bring to the belly, but then it goes up to like where my lungs would be and the tip. So that's kind of what I noticed. But can you talk about the belly part?
You know, there are different meditation lineages, and of course, they'll focus on different parts of the body. So, in your tradition, you've been taught to focus on the belly. So, the rising and the falling of the belly, and maybe sensations there. And I suspect you've been taught 2 inches down and 2 inches in, something like that. So,
Yeah.
right. So, there is a meditation that focuses on generating heat in that area. And that's a little bit different to what we're doing right now. The way I was taught when I first was taught Vipassana meditation was to focus on a spot at the base of the nose. But you'll notice when you inhale and exhale, you can feel the sensation of the air as you inhale and exhale, particularly if you're cold. The air that comes in is slightly cooler than the air that you exhale. So it's totally fine. And just choose one, though, for where we're at right now. And so for the purposes of this meditation, it's totally fine if you are noticing the sensations at either the tip, because it depends on the shape of your nose as well. So, my Burmese teachers have a different shaped nose than the Western, not pretty much the Western nose. So I don't know. I always managed to find the base of the nose, but maybe that's why they did it there, because everybody's nose is different, a different shape, depending, where you were born. So if you can focus on the base of the nose, or if you feel any sensations around the side or even the tip, that's fine. So does that kind of answer your question, or did you want to,
Yes. Yes,
that
thank
did?
you. Thank
But
you.
just stick to one. So, whether it's the thoracic region, the belly, or the nose, just stick to one of those, because otherwise your mind will just be, like you said, when you focus on the belly, a lot of things come up. So that could serve as a distraction for you.
Yeah,
So then, for the purpose of this kind of meditation, you don't want to be terribly distracted.
thank you.
So, yep, okay. And I think Linda wanted to say something. You didn't? Oh, okay. Amelia, did you want to say anything?
Hi, sure.
Hi.
It's my first time. I missed last time. I
Oh,
didn't
I'm
make it.
sorry.
Said I
Okay.
wanted to go, not your fault. I
Does
just
it make
didn't
any
want-
sense though?
It does. I've been reading a lot about mindfulness, and I
Mhm.
came across your course and I wanted to catch up. So being that it's my first time, I wasn't supremely comfortable sitting in the position that I was in. I just kept feeling tightness in my shoulders.
Mhm.
But as I got into it, I felt like I was more aware of how my belly was shifting with my breaths. I went back to my breath somehow and was able to center myself that way. So that worked for me.
Well done. So how are you sitting? Are you sitting cross-legged,
I
or
am.
do you have something underneath your coccyx, underneath your
Yes,
sits bones?
I have a cushion, yes.
Okay. So one of the things that you can do is, if your shoulders are tense, do you spend a lot of time in front of the computer?
Today I did, not every
Yeah.
day.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it might be possible that the minute you sort of sit like this, all of a sudden you start to notice where the tension
Yes,
is.
yeah, it's possible.
One thing, maybe I'll show you guys next week. I don't have my yoga strap with me right now. One thing my chiropractor taught me, which I found enormously relieving, was to strap up my shoulders around my waist,
I see.
and it just I'm gonna, if you'll excuse me, I'm just going to get my yoga strap. Because what it did was it provided me some support, like I was sitting a lot straighter once I did this. And I'll just show you, hang on one sec. I'm going to put myself
Thank
on
you.
mute. Hang on. And just when I need it, my yoga strap has disappeared. I think it must have dropped in the back of the car. Anyway, I will show you guys next week. But does anyone have a yoga strap handy there? No? Okay. So basically what you do is you pull this thing around your upper thoracic region. You cross one over here, the other over there. You pull it tight and then you wrap it around here. It basically straightens your upper spine. And the other thing too is if your head is out of alignment, that will create tension in the top of the neck as well. So I will bring along the strap next week, so you get an opportunity to see how it can help you. And my chiropractor said for me just to wear that 20 minutes a day. So and there's also this bra that I think you can get, men and women can get it. It's like a support from a company called Form. And I'm not sponsored by them. And I haven't tried it because it's $180 for this thing. But apparently it's just a reminder to stand up, basically to sit up straight. And they do have a version for men and for women, for male and female bodies. So what do they call them? Posture correcting t-shirts. Posture aids. There you go, Eric. Thank you. How do you know about this? Different prices that pull back the shoulders. Eric, are you a chiropractor? Or maybe he just knows about these things. Okay.
And it's a
Huh?
yoga strap that's called a yoga strap?
It's just a yoga strap. And you can do the same thing with a yoga strap. Except you maybe don't want to be walking around outside with a yoga strap. But I tell you what, it gives you so much relief. It's extraordinary, this thing. And if you wear your yoga strap in the way I'm going to show you next week, when you're typing, what happens is the minute you start to go like this, you've got this pressure, which is a reminder for you to sit up straight. So, okay, Eric's got something there. Ah, yes, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Eric, do you want to show? Oh, no, you threw it away. Eric, do you want to show everybody what that does?
I have no idea if this is actually adjusted to fit me at the moment, but there's a lot of Velcro involved and there's
Right.
slidey guys, and I don't know which direction it goes off the top of my head, but I think it's,
There you go. Yeah.
yeah, so
And then you pull it down
when you find the straps, ideally,
and then you pull it in, and
hear
so you
them.
can see what's happening is his shoulders are back, but it also enables his thoracic region to straighten. The other thing that you can do, Amelia, is if you have a towel, you can roll it up and just put it against, if you're sitting, are you on a chair?
On my bed.
You're on your bed. So you
Yeah.
could go up against the wall.
I see.
Normally, they don't recommend that you lean up against anything, but if you're experiencing back pain and you're meditating for quite some time, Eric's going to be there till midnight trying to figure that thing out. You can just lean against a rolled up towel, or even, I don't know, a bolster, if you have a yoga bolster, something like that, to give you a little bit of support.
I see. Thank you.
Okay, so I hope that's helpful.
Thank you.
Yep, look at you, but then you haven't pulled the bit around the front here. Or is there not a bit that comes around the front? Oh, that's just there's so many different things that you can use. Hey,
It's just one just looks like a pretty,
a shoulder, and this is just a reminder to, basically to sit up straight. Fantastic. Thanks for going to that effort, Eric. Right. Anybody else? Marion, I wanted to check in with you to see how it was going for you. Oh, you're muted. Sheila, can you unmute her?
found a yoga strap too.
Fantastic.
Okay, it went amazingly well for me today
Okay.
because you were leading it. So I
It
didn't
doesn't
have,
it does make a difference when someone else is leading it. I know.
yeah, because otherwise I'm like, oh no, I'm on the top of my head. Now I gotta go down, you know, to my eyes or my ears or my neck. So I have to put more effort. Whereas today it went smoothly. That's all I
Right.
can say.
Okay, good.
Because you were leading it. So I didn't have to put any effort into it. I could just kind of roll with it, if you know what I mean.
I do. And did anybody notice anybody notice their introspection as we discussed? Your your wise spy or your good mother noticing when maybe the mind had traveled and you brought it back. Were you able to get a sense of the mindfulness and the introspection working together?
I just think it went amazingly smoothly.
Okay. So in a way, it was moving in such a way that you didn't notice any jarring or
No.
huge distractions. Fantastic. That's great to hear. Thank you.
Whereas it's for me, it's more of an effort. Oh, I gotta, start with the head, and then I gotta go to the shoulders, and it's more of an effort, so to speak, when I do it myself.
And so, this idea of effortless effort is something seems like you were obviously putting some effort into it, otherwise you wouldn't have remained focused.
Right.
But it felt effortless, which is wonderful. That's fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. Eric, I just wanted to acknowledge can you bring your yoga strap next week? And we're going to do if everyone has a yoga strap, and then I'll show you how to strap yourselves up without having to spend $180. Okay. Everyone should do this. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about working with distractions and dullness, because this is a big issue for all of us, I think. So once we start paying attention to our, physical experiences, we become aware of how our attention starts to stray away from our object of mindfulness. So you might think that you're focusing on the breath, and then all of a sudden you realize the mind traveled somewhere. So that there are these processes that interrupt and draw our attention away, and they put them in two broad categories, and one of them is dullness and the other is distraction. So dullness is basically means a loss of alertness, or vividness of attention, vividness of focus, clarity. Mm-hmm. And this includes the experience of drowsiness and sleepiness. I teach a class at the YMCA here in Marin, and we have one woman who comes in, and the first class she came, she pretty much snored the whole way through. And I let it go because, some people come into that meditation class and they just need to rest. So that's where they're at that particular session. I don't ask anybody to sit there and pay attention throughout the whole class. And some of them do go to sleep. But after a while, it starts to change and they start to pay attention. So, at the beginning of your meditation, if you are nodding off and falling asleep, and sometimes it can feel quite nice to sleep through meditation, that's fantastic. And it's okay, because maybe that's what you need. But if you do notice that, one of our teachers here in San Francisco, Geshe Dakpa, said it's best to sort of get up, leave the meditation, splash some water on your face, and then come back to it, or just go away and lie down and have a sleep if that's what you need. But the suggestion is, if you start to get into the habit of coming to meditation and getting drowsy and falling asleep, it dulls the mind. It kind of somehow erodes they talk about it damages your intelligence. And that sounds a little bit dramatic to me, but it becomes a habit that you don't necessarily want. So meditation is not necessarily about feeling good, and it is, of course, the byproduct is relaxation and feeling good, but it's not necessarily the point. And then there is distraction, and this means it's kind of more energy than we actually need in the mind. It's kind of, the mind is very, very active, and I've got to do this, I've got to do that, and I wonder what's happening here, and all this and the mind's and it just kind of prevents you from settling into your meditation. And the most common type of distraction, which greatly increases our stress levels, actually, is this kind of compulsive involuntary thinking, like ruminating. And it's almost like following the thoughts down a path. It's like you start to create your own movie, and then you're in your own movie and you're thinking up scenarios for the future about things that haven't even happened yet. And yet you have emotions about them, and it's not even real. So my chiropractor, I live in a little cottage in the back of my chiropractor's property, and occasionally we run into each other in the garden and chat. And she was saying to me the other day, I tell my patients not to believe anything that's in your mind unless you've slept, eaten, or worked out, gone, had some exercise. So she said, if neither of those three things are present, don't believe what's going on in the mind. I thought that's just fantastic, because then you're going, oh, such and such is going on, like this person, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, oh, wait, I didn't eat yet. Let me eat first before I think about that. So you're like, you always have to have the discipline to stop yourself.
Mhm.
But it's very, very distracting what all this kind of nonsense we have going on in our mind. It's kind of, it's just weird. And it's also like, I don't know if any of you, I love these kind of British crime shows because I come from Australia. And my friend Venerable Angie and I used to, when we were at Rimshay's house, we used to like watch Vera. So Vera is this British woman. So one of the things that was always so heartbreaking to me is at the end of every Vera show, someone got murdered or whatever, and she'd found out who it was. The situation was just an enormous misunderstanding. And that misunderstanding was heartbreaking. It's like, you mean you didn't do blah, blah, blah? You mean it's just everybody got everything wrong. But what was going on in the mind of the people that had taken such drastic action, if they had kind of counteracted it earlier down the track and got to, well, this is what the truth is, in fact, they wouldn't have taken that extreme step of, and this is what happens all the time. It's this man was caught in one of the neighborhoods in Los Angeles with a blowtorch wanting to set yet another neighborhood on fire. And the residents caught him. So it's all on camera. And they did a citizen's arrest and then called the police. But what was that person thinking? You know, when so much devastation and destruction had already happened, and this person thought he'd go light another fire. And it's beyond comprehension. But he seemed to think that he was doing the right thing. It was an idea in his mind that he thought was something he was going to do. But it's harmful and destructive, and he's going to be in prison now for probably the rest of his life. But so if we can, it's like Venerable Rubina always uses this analogy. When you're driving down the freeway, you don't wait for the wheels to fall off the car before you attend to them. You get your car checked regularly. So it's almost a matter for us to kind of work on our mind and make sure that what's going on in there, if it's disturbing us, is it even real, or is this something that we need to worry about? And maybe I need to go talk to a therapist about it, like someone who's paid to listen to me for an hour and can kind of challenge some of the thoughts and maybe redirect them if we're not able to do it ourselves. So I think, or even a good friend, you know, hey, I'm having these thoughts. Do you think this is reasonable? So it almost means for us that, and these kind of thoughts are just really, really distracting. And sometimes they don't go away because if you have an idea of this idea of karma, reincarnation, whatever, you brought things in with you. So you maybe you grew up in a family where there was kind of trauma or drama or historical something, like in Germany. When I went to Germany as an adolescent, I was shocked by the extent to which the German youth who are my age were carrying the guilt of their parents for what happened to the Jewish community. So I was just like, I was amazed at this level of community. I don't know, would you call it guilt? But it was just, these young people were holding this kind of trauma of what had been done in their country to this one group of people. And so there may be all this kind of thing, and maybe there's something in the family and it's underlying. So then we have a habit, and it's considered normal to be in this frame of mind, but it's not really who you are. And it can be extremely distracting. So anyway, many thoughts will capture our attention and keep our attention involved in other matters of past or imaginary future, and accompanied with all these emotions. So not super helpful for the meditation. Anyway, we have about just under 20 minutes left, And does anyone have any questions about? I wanted to do the last meditation, which is mindfulness of breathing, and also a bit of, releasing some of this. Anybody else, anything to share?
So,
Yes,
so I was
Sheila.
just wondering, so this happens to me a lot, getting distracted.
Oh yeah, me too.
And I just go off, or it seems like,
Right.
I mean, I've started setting my phone to, like for 5 minutes to bring me back, because, I'll start thinking about something and then I'll lead to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. I mean, I get very comfortable sitting. So
Mhm.
I, can kind of automatically get in my pose, but then after a minute or two of watching my breath, psh, I'm gone. Can you
Right.
speak of anything about bringing it back?
Yes. I mean, the phone is a good idea. It's almost like we use the phone to tell you, okay, you need to stand up now because you've been sitting too long. Let's say 20 minutes is long enough to sit at your desk. But this is where your introspection becomes very useful, because it's okay if you've gone for 5 minutes and you've noticed all of a sudden, oh, my mind's traveled, or you have an awareness before you sit down and meditate. Is this all the time or just during meditation? All the time. Okay.
Probably all the time. I notice it during meditation because, there's not as many distractions,
Right.
except that
So when you sit down to meditate, you can just say, okay, Sheila, it's likely that my mind is going to travel. So I'm going to make an attempt. This is your intention, can be that you're going to attempt to bring the mind back when it starts to travel, and just do it gently. And it's like, oops, here we go again. And then one of the things we can do, I think I'd like to do next week, we don't have time this week, is to do this 9-round breathing, which is excellent for keeping everybody grounded. It's a little different to the alternate nostril breathing that some of you may have learned in yoga, but I'll teach it the way Lama Yeshe taught it. And I think you'll find it extremely helpful. So that is always a really good thing. The other thing, Sheila, is just to do that 4-count inhale, 4-count exhale, with a pause at the stop, as we did in the beginning. Inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1, and pause, and then exhale for a count of 4 and pause, and do that for a few rounds. But I think the best thing for distraction, particularly when it's mental distractions, is this 9-round breathing. It's extraordinary what it does. So we will do it next week. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. And you will find that very helpful. But meanwhile, it's just it's just a process, slowly. The fact that you even notice that your mind travels is it's like the first step.
Mhm.
You already notice that it's happening. Some people don't even notice that it's happening. So you're already way ahead. So now all you need to do is make the intention that, okay, I know it's going to happen and I'm just going to bring it back. And then you bring the mind, you go, hello, where are you now? Hello, mind, come back to the breath, and you start to breathe. And it's going to go again and again and again. And you may have to do it 50 million times during that 5-minute meditation. The other thing too is don't meditate for too long. Set your watch for 3 minutes, 2 minutes, and then 5 minutes. But I wouldn't recommend you do more than 5 minutes of really good focus, concentration, meditation. And then just see how that is, because that becomes your precious 5 minutes. And then it's just a kind of put some guardrails around your meditation time. And then you can expand it as you get more experience. But anyway, thank you for sharing that, because I can assure you you're not the only one. Okay. All right. So let's just settle again back into your meditation. So, check your alignment. And the sensations of your natural breath are the object of your mindfulness. So emphasizing the practice of mindfulness as this simple act of repeatedly returning our attention to the sensations of the breath. So it's kind of helpful to think that the more times we are able to return our attention very kindly to the sensations of the breath, stronger the connection and familiarity between mindfulness and the breath will come. So each time you notice a natural out-breath and the subtle feeling of physical release that accompanies it, we can kind of consciously associate that with a chance to release this tension in the body and mental agitation. And then you can build up a positive association with mindfulness of breathing. And then when introspection alerts us to the presence of involuntary reactive thinking or dullness of the mind, you can learn to welcome introspection as your friend. And so remind ourselves as we breathe out to allow anything that's not necessary or unneeded in this present moment to flow away and be released. So you can do that also too, as you notice your mind has traveled, and just release wherever it's traveled to, and bring it back to the breath. So just be in touch with the simple sensations of the body as you settle back into your meditation posture, and notice the areas of softness and ease and relaxation. And can you welcome these feelings and allow ourselves to enjoy them while they're there? Maybe also notice areas of tension or tightness with uncomfortable feelings. And can you simply acknowledge them for the time being, and don't feel that we have to change them immediately or for the better? Just let them be. And just check in with the sensations at your face. Are you tensing up any muscles there? Can you just gently relax your face and let in a different feeling, one of softness and ease and comfort, into your face? So the moment you say to yourself, I'm just going to allow my facial muscles to relax, you'll notice they'll release. And then you'll do it again 2 minutes later and you'll realize you tightened your face up again. So you can allow this softening and relaxing to spread on its own throughout the rest of the body, helping our body to settle into meditation in its own time. So among the different bodily sensations, see if you can highlight those sensations associated with the breath. Maybe you can notice the subtle sensations around your nostrils, where you can feel the air flow in and out of the body. Some of you may prefer to notice the movement of the chest expanding and contracting, the upper thoracic region, the diaphragm falling and rising with each breath. You may also focus on the belly, or just choose one of those, one that is maybe most comfortable or useful for you right now, and it could change. So now rest your attention on the breath, and each time we notice ourselves exhaling, let's use it as an opportunity to release, releasing anything unhelpful and unwanted, just like the way we breathe out to let go of stale air in our lungs. So if you wish, you can say to yourself this word, release, in your mind each time we notice an out-breath. This is to remind our body that it does not need to hold on to unnecessary tightness and contraction. It also reminds us that we can let go of thoughts and memories and fantasy that preoccupy our mind. We can also release states of dullness and drowsiness, allowing them to flow away with the out-breath. We're not forcing anything to happen. We're not pushing anything away. So don't push away your distractions with aversion. Just notice them. Be aware of what's arising in the mind. The trick is to not engage with the thoughts. Once you've noticed there's some distracting thoughts there, some rumination maybe, look at it with curiosity. It's like, oh, hello. What are you doing here? And then just gently release. When you notice your attention is distracted, traveled elsewhere, or you're feeling drowsy, just simply invite your attention to come back to the sensations of the breath and to release on the exhale. So we'll just meditate like this for a couple of minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. And then we'll have a very quick check-in before we leave today. Everyone just relax. And just come back in your own time. Just when you're ready, open your eyes. Eric, that cat. So next week we go a little bit deeper. And we're going to be we'll be working with thoughts a little bit more next week, session 3. Okay, thank you. I suggest if, this was your first time today, or even if it wasn't, go to the recording. And then I think if, as Marianne said, it's always very helpful when somebody's leading the meditation. So what you can do is go, I'm wondering, Sheila, if it's not too much work for you to just let people know at what point the meditation start, so that they can go to that point in the recording and just listen and do the meditation with the recording. Is that going to be too difficult to find? Actually, you guys can find it. It'll be about, I think that the first one, the last one, I think we started around about 15 minutes ago, 10 or 15 minutes ago. So that would be the second one. The first one, I think, was about 30 or 40 minutes in. So if you guys want to do the meditation, you can just scroll through the recording. And then I'd like to suggest, if you're having any reactivities to anything, that rather than reacting, give yourself some space. Particularly if you're in traffic or something and you're kind of racing to get to somewhere, or you're feeling stressed about something, just almost take 5 breaths before you make any decision or before you move. Just take 5 breaths. Take a step back, close your eyes, and breathe in and out 5 times, or 8 times, or 4 times, or however many times you think you need. And then just do that. That's your only homework, is to recognize when you have some of these thoughts that are kind of disturbing, or, something's getting you down, and then take a few breaths. That's all you need to do. And as for the drowsiness one, you can, in fact, if you're meditating, you're starting to feel drowsy, I would just, at this point, just get up, walk around, get some fresh air, put some water on your face, and then come back and try again. Okay, everyone. So thank you so much, Sheila, for another wonderful session. I just love all you guys. You're so attentive.
Thank you, Katy, for a wonderful session.
Okay,
Very
so
helpful.
if you do have a yoga strap or even a bathrobe strap, bring it along next week. And if you don't, it doesn't matter. But I just wanted to show you guys how to do that. Strap yourselves up to keep your spine nice and straight. Okay, so maybe we just dedicate all the virtuous energy, all the positive energy we've created, any creative energy we've kind of generated during this meditation, to all those people of our life that we thought about in the beginning, and particularly perhaps to all those people down in Los Angeles County who are suffering enormously right now. And then, of course, everybody in the areas around them, they're all experiencing horrible pollution. So one of my friends is down there right now. I said, "What's the air like?" And she said, "It's like Kathmandu on a good day." So anyway, that's not fantastic. Anyway, all right, you guys, lots of love. I look forward to next week. And thank you so much, Sheila and Sunny. All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Okay, see you.
Venerable.
Bye.
Good
Bye.
night.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye.
See you later. Bye.